Recently, I've been thinking about getting into beekeeping, but when I started researching about it, I realized that there is so much more to it. You even have to feed the bees. JK is here with us to explain more about bee feeding and beekeeping. Hi.
Hey.
So this, I'm guessing, is a beehive.
Yeah, this would be our standard Langstroth style hive that we would keep our bees in. And I'm going to talk a little bit about feeding them during the wintertime.
Okay, so is it, okay, you said during the wintertime, because I was going to ask, and is it a silly question? Like, don't bees eat flower?
Well,
Like
they don't eat flowers. They get nectar and pollen from the flowers.
Right, so when there aren't any flowers because it's the winter, then you have to.
Exactly.
Now it makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly. In the wintertime, we go through a time what we call a nectar dearth, or a time when there's less nectar available. And so sometimes we might need to supplement our bees with an energy source, such as sugar water.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so to be able to do that, we have a couple different techniques and tools to help us feed our bees or supplement our bees during the wintertime. And one of the first ones we want to talk about is called a Boardman or entrance feeder.
Oh.
And what that is if you could imagine, I have here a lid and has a bunch of tiny little pinpricks all along the inside. If we had a big glass jar we could tie or twist it onto, we fill our jar full of sugar water. We could put it upside down onto this little container, and it's called a entrance or Boardman feeder because we actually slide it into the entrance of the hive. Like
Is
so.
there a ratio that you're trying to get with the sugar to water?
There is. So we have two options. We can usually do either a 1-to-1 volume per volume ratio of sugar to water or a 2-to-1. We do 1-to-1 in the spring, summertime usually to try to encourage the bees to build more comb on the inside of the hive and on the frames.
Oh.
Whereas we use a 2-to-1 ratio, that's 2 parts sugar to 1 part water for the purposes of supplementation or feeding the bees in the wintertime.
Cool.
So that's one option. We put it in the front and it slides in just like that. Another option that we can do is actually we can feed our bees from the inside. So if we take apart our hive,
This is so cool.
take our lid, our inner cover off, we can feed our bees from the inside. We take out one of our frames, remove it, set it aside. We can actually take a frame feeder, fill it again full of our sugar water substitute, and we can actually just set it right on the inside. And the way that it works is that on the inside, there's what we call bee ladders, or a lattice work that goes the whole way down to the frame. That way the bees can grab onto something and still drink up the water that's inside there.
That's neat.
This is really good for places up north where it's particularly cold, and the bees don't necessarily want to go outside to be able to get their
who can blame
material. Exactly, it's super cold. So when we put that on the inside, the bees can just go straight to it and never have to leave the hive.
Cool.
And then our third way that we sometimes will feed our bees is what a lot of more commercial beekeepers would do, because it's a much more rapid way of feeding the bees. We put everything back together, and you can see I actually have a hole in the top part of my hive here.
Yes, you do.
And the reason for that is our third way of feeding is taking a bucket like so. This bucket, the lid also has tiny little pinpricks in it.
Oh, it does.
And then we fill our bucket full of our substitute. We just turn it upside down and set it right on top of the hive like this. And the gravity will actually take effect and create a suction from those pinpricks. So that way little drops just hang down and the bees can crawl up, get what they need, go back inside of the hive.
Is that the lazy man's way to feed the bees?
It's the quickest way, which is why our commercial beekeepers prefer to do it, because all you have to do is just set them on top of all the hives, and with a little bit of sunlight, you can usually see what level of feed is still inside the bucket. Makes it quick and easy for our commercial beekeepers.
How quickly do they go through the food?
Depends on the size of the colony and how much available resources are actually out in nature at the moment. But it just depends on how hungry your bees are.
You shouldn't have to do this in the spring and summer. It's usually just a winter thing.
Usually, if it's true feeding for the bees, yeah, bees are biologically designed to be able to store honey. That's what they do. They're storing their food away for these winter times, but they store an excess amount, which allows us as beekeepers to be able to go and take and harvest some of that honey as well. So we leave them some honey, but if they need some extra resources, that's when we're going to be feeding them, usually during the winter time.
Speaking of resources, if people want to start in the wonderful world of beekeeping, where can they go for more information?
Well, they can definitely contact us at the UF-IFAS Extension Office in Orange County to be able to reach out. We have myself, but we have other beekeepers all throughout the area, including our Orange Blossom Beekeepers Association, which is the local club.
Very cool. I will definitely be checking out the website to get more information on how to keep my own bees and make my own honey. Thanks, JK.
You're very welcome. Thank you.